I don't think anyone could have imagined the amount of destruction that would take place 500 miles north of where that hurricane made landfall. And I think Milton, to a degree, while not so much a wind event as a devastating water event, maybe you could share some of your thoughts and where, being in the modeling world, you think probably people are going to have to look at the models and underwriters are going to have to apply their anecdotal and true experience of these events.
Seeing a storm like Helene make it all the way up to North Carolina and have the devastating impact that it did was shocking, realistically. So I would anticipate to see these storms hold together longer and potentially have more impacts inland that are areas that are currently getting missed. So being able to just assess something of that nature, maybe start to consider if this area was to receive inundating rainfall, what may occur if you're somewhere that's on a slope, those areas that had the landslides that occurred. Take that into account. Sure, maybe it hasn't happened before, but it just seems to be happening more and more frequently. The storms are getting stronger and stronger and holding together longer. So knowing that and looking at these areas that are not traditionally hurricane areas, if you're going to receive even tropical storm rains, that can be devastating for certain areas. If your land isn't Florida's very porous. There's a lot of areas for things to drain. If you're somewhere that has the mountains, that leads to landslides. So accounting for that, just kind of having that in the back of your mind is worth noting at this point in time, in my personal opinion. Milton itself was a lot here in Tampa. So we experienced, I believe, 100-mile-an-hour winds and over 18 inches of rain here. So I'm very lucky my home personally did not flood. From there, it's just a learning situation because it was really home to home what the difference was. So with those pluvial rains, everything that was coming down from the sky flooded different homes than Helene. So when you look at those FEMA maps, they're not necessarily perfect. FEMA's looking at different things than what actually truly occurred here. And even with the newer construction, there's different grading that's going on. So when there's a new construction home built next to an older home, the home that is new will have different grading that's put onto it and therefore dump water differently. Sure, that's hard to account for realistically, but if you're an underwriter, you can go in, look at the new build. It's probably going to be better and up to code versus an older home. So taking those things into account, even though we're in not a great situation here, can really make a difference when the time comes. I've personally seen it. Houses 2 blocks down were completely flooded. I saw them gutted. So having this information ready to go and just bearing that in the back of your mind, not everything's going to be perfect. The FEMA maps aren't great, but it's a great starting point, and you can take an educated decision from there.
Bringing the human element in, where would you say models are challenged? I'll use that term, not fall short or what, but are challenged. And I'm going not to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to guess it comes into play when you have an event like 100-mile-an-hour Santa Ana wind that has an embercast that is so broad. And or you have an event like Helene, which drops a bunch of water in an area that just was unable to cope with it. But other thoughts on just where models are today, where they may be challenged, and what is the direction that they're going to have to go in to stay relevant, to stay current and up to date?
It's no secret that weather is getting a little bit more volatile. So when we're seeing events that just have not occurred and we did not necessarily think were going to occur, that is essentially new information. So those Santa Ana winds that were 100 miles an hour, that is pretty unheard of. So yes, now we know it occurs, and it can be a thing that we do need to account for. But similarly to the rainfall totals that we're seeing coming out of certain areas. These are challenges that are just not being captured at this point in time. So the changing environment of what we're seeing. So trying to capture reality as opposed to just making some broad guess. So once these things have occurred, they will be accounted for, but that's always going to be a challenge, is keeping up with the volatility of what we're seeing in weather patterns. Where are things shifting? Is Tornado Alley shifting around from where it used to be? Knowing these kinds of things can be hard and challenging. It's where, we try to make some guesses based on the climatology ingredients, what could possibly occur, but there's always going to be misses. So a best case scenario is that we get it right? Most of the time, someone's always going to be missing.
So that's where you need to have that combination of internal actuarial feedback within an
Absolutely.
insurance company combined with modeling / AI. So, no, I get that.